question is he a criminal? Is he basically akin to a mob boss running several criminal enterprises? And while it's very clear to me he is a depraved, disgusting person, we have to prove that he violated the law.
Shan Diddy Combs might be sitting behind bars today, but if the whispers coming from behind courtroom doors and studio walls are true, that won't be the case for much longer. And not because of the $50 million bail package he's now submitted, for the fourth time. No, this is far bigger, far darker. Sources close to the legal circus say a jaw-dropping $500 million is now in motion, money allegedly scraped together through backroom deals, off-the-record calls, and the quiet, desperate wire transfers of Hollywood royalty terrified their names might be next. Diddy's not just buying freedom, he's buying silence. And for some of the most powerful people in entertainment, that silence might be worth every time.
See this gangster that behind the scenes is that him? Or is that
Shout out to Wendy Williams.
We're not talking about music industry beef or another domestic scandal swept under the rug. We're talking about a secret archive. Videos, files, footage from the infamous freak-off parties that prosecutors hinted at during trial, but never fully unpacked. Those weren't just wild nights. Allegedly, those were traps. High-production honeypots with cameras hidden in places guests never imagined. Now, insiders are claiming Diddy has been hoarding these tapes for years, creating a kind of shadow empire, built not on hits and platinum plaques, but on leverage. The $500 million, it didn't come from his bank account. It came from everyone else's, from Alistair's, power execs, and mega influencers quietly buying back their shame, one humiliating clip at a time.
When it came to, it's not just the more serious charges, but it's the more complex charges, where the jury, in order to, for instance, find guilt on the racketeering charge, was going to have to find not just that Sean Combs had kicked his girlfriend, had beat people up, had engaged in truly abhorrent behavior, but that he ran a...
The judge hasn't ruled yet, but the atmosphere in that courtroom is pure tension. Diddy's legal team is making noise, insisting that there's never been a case like this, arguing that their client is a scapegoat, not a criminal. But behind that legal posturing, something else is happening. People in the know are murmuring that the judge, Aaron Subramanian, has been stalling, not because he's unsure of the law, but because he's aware of the stakes. He knows about the archive. Maybe not the contents in full, but enough to feel the pressure, enough to know that this isn't just about Combs. It's about an entire ecosystem of secrecy, control, and silent compliance. And if Diddy walks, it could mean those files are locked up for good.
The flight where Diddy said to her, she testified that he showed her a video of a freak-off that she participated in and said, if you don't participate in another freak-off when we get to New York, I'm going to put this video out. I'm going to send it to your mother.
And that's coercion.
She testified to that.
If the jury
they believe her, that's coercion.
But here's where things really start to twist. What if the $500 million isn't even for the bail? Some former insiders are now saying the whole release package is just a cover story. That money is being funneled toward a more sinister goal, a carefully arranged silencing campaign. Think payoffs, think hush agreements, think disappearing evidence and conveniently timed amnesia. We've seen this playbook before, haven't we? The disgraced mogul with deep pockets buying his way out of the storm. But this time, the storm might be deeper than anyone expected. One former associate claims, it's not a question of if the archive is real, it's a question of how many careers it could end. And that brings us to the tapes everyone's afraid of, the so-called Cassie files. According to 3 sources close to the investigation, these tapes are the crown jewels of Diddy's alleged leverage stash footage that reportedly shows not just on-off altercations, but patterns. Cycles documented freak-off sessions with multiple witnesses, some allegedly coerced, others seemingly participating with smiles that don't reach their eyes. Prosecutors already admitted to having the now infamous hotel hallway footage from 2016 where Diddy kicks Cassie and drags her by the hair. But what they showed in court may be just the sanitized tip of a very filthy iceberg. Word is, these files include scenes so intense, so damning that even Diddy's legal team threatened to walk unless they were kept sealed. They didn't call a single witness at trial. Maybe they didn't need to. Maybe they knew what else was out there.
What's really going to be interesting is the parade of celebrities who we expect to be mentioned and or called into that courtroom. You know, people who we hadn't heard about prior, like Mike Myers, You know, Austin Powers, Mike Myers, why is he getting called? Why is he on the witness list? That'll be fascinating. And then, of course, there are the no-name, quote unquote, women who are going to have to find every ounce of courage they have.
Now, imagine being a high-profile actor, a chart-topping artist, a household name director, and knowing you were at one of those parties. Maybe it was years ago. Maybe you forgot it happened, or maybe you didn't. And you've been living with that tight knot in your chest ever since the first court date dropped. These aren't just parties. These are liabilities. And if Diddy has tapes, and everyone we've spoken to says he absolutely does, then the panic flooding through entertainment circles makes perfect sense. One former road manager claims they saw blackmail payments being negotiated through intermediaries as far back as 2019. Quiet meetings, messenger bags full of cash, hire transfers routed through offshore elves. If this was all a movie, the plot would have been rejected for being too far-fetched, but here we are. Of course, Diddy's lawyers are spinning the narrative in every direction they can. They're saying he was a John, not a trafficker. That he never had inappropriate relations with the men involved, just facilitated his girlfriend's consensual choices as part of a swinging lifestyle. The defense argues this is a generational misunderstanding, a 21st century morality clash with an outdated law written in 1910. They're trying to paint the entire case as a witch hunt. There has literally never been a case like this, they wrote in a recent filing. That part we can't argue with.
Once worked together a long time ago. They're not friends now. They don't like each other. And yeah, 50 has taken every shot, especially when Diddy has been down.
But even if we play by their logic, even if the Mann Act charges are outdated and overblown, it still doesn't answer the real question. Why 500 million? Why now? What's behind the sudden surge of capital? And who's really pulling the strings behind the scenes? Legal experts say no one's ever put up a bail amount that absurd voluntarily, unless there's something far bigger at stake. And considering Diddy's fortune, already battered by lawsuits, canceled endorsements, and the long list of former collaborators now keeping their distance, it's hard to believe he just had that kind of money sitting around. No. The likeliest answer is also the scariest. He got that money from people who needed something erased or buried. The clock is ticking. Judge Submanian has given prosecutors until July 31st to respond to the latest bail request. Officially, Diddy remains locked up. Unofficially, multiple legal insiders say his team is already preparing for release. Not in October. Sooner, much sooner. Because whether it's a deal being struck or a payoff being accepted, the machinery is moving, and the rumors that once sounded like tabloid nonsense are starting to look like cold strategy. Even his harshest critics admit Combs may be one of the most calculated players the entertainment industry has ever produced. And while he may not have testified at his trial, he's been speaking loud and clear through his actions.
The judge in the Guardian.
The judge in the guardianship read Alex Finney the Riot Act, threatened her, and said, "You're talking," making an accusation that she's talking to the media. And if you continue doing it, I'm going to do this to you, I'm going to do that to you. There is a gag order in this case. I can tell you that the judge has scared a lot of people in.
The sudden disappearance of lead prosecutor Maureen Kami hasn't gone unnoticed either. Fired without public explanation just days after delivering her closing argument. This is the same woman who helped take down Ghislaine Maxwell. People don't just vanish from cases like this. Not unless someone upstairs gives the order. Connect the dots, and it starts to paint a picture too perfect for coincidence. The judge stalls. The prosecutor disappears. The accused preps $500 million from unnamed sources, and the industry that once propped him up is suddenly silent. And maybe that's because some of them are in those tapes. Maybe it's not just about protecting Diddy. Maybe it's about protecting themselves. Because if even a fraction of the rumored archive leaks, the fallout wouldn't just wreck reputations. It could trigger a cascade of indictments, firings, and fast exits from every corner of the industry. One former PR consultant claims they were approached by a top 5 actors team just last week, desperate to find out if their name was on any list. Not a press list, a surveillance list. And they weren't the only ones asking.
The judge doesn't know what she's talking about. I mean,
by the way, there are a lot of people clamoring for Wendy to actually get back on the air and to have a show again.
When did this judge become Roger Ebert? I mean, I'm serious. Wendy Williams is a hot commodity right now. I can tell you from our Tubi documentary, it attracted a lot of attention. She's done interviews with major outlets.
Stay curious, stay bold, and until next time, keep your eyes open. Because in a world this dark, the truth never stays buried for long.